Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. How public are our parks? Concerns over proposals to lease parts of a public space in Sheffield to a private company.
The commercialisation of public parks is going too far. And specifically, I think Hillsborough Park is being used as a venue for generating income.
But do cash-strapped councils have any choice if we want new facilities and events in our parks? Also tonight, tributes are paid to a moped rider who died following a collision with an ambulance in Barnsley. We'll have the latest on the investigation. The new arrivals at the Yorkshire Arboretum receiving a warm welcome. And bye-bye July. As August arrives, we look back at one of the wettest months on record.
And the rain does seem relentless, doesn't it? This was Otley earlier today. You can see the drizzle coming down the valley. As we head into August, is there any improvement on the way? Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hello, good evening. Thank you for your company. We start tonight's programme with your local park. Who does it belong to and how should it be used? Sheffield Council is planning to lease part of one of its city's parks to a business to create new facilities. But some groups worry they'll lose out. It's Hillsborough Park and parts of it became an absolute mud bath after heavy rain during the Tramlines Festival. Campaigners say it's time to make sure revenue generated by parks went back into them rather than plugging holes in council budgets. Tom Ingle reports.
The ups and downs of park life. The bike track is a popular spot in Hillsborough Park. Right next door are some tennis courts and a large tarmac area described as a multi-use games area, or MUGA for short. One charity who use it, Sheffield Cycling for All,
how you doing?
Told us earlier this year they're unhappy with Sheffield City Council plans to lease it out to a business. And they are not the only ones.
Our main concern is the loss of the mugger, which normally is very well used, and having done a survey of it over 3 months previously, it's about 6 times better used than the tennis courts. We don't want to lose this area.
Now, you might be forgiven for thinking, OK, the people who use this corner of Hillsborough Park really care passionately about its future, but what does that have to do with me? I live at the other end of Yorkshire, that's miles away. Well, there's a bigger story here about the way our parks are used commercially, particularly as if we turn a corner from the multi-use games area, you can see vast swathes of Hillsborough Park are still closed off as the clean-up goes on from last weekend's Tramlines Festival. It was a particularly wet edition of Tramlines this year. With thousands of dancing feet, the park took a battering. Work is underway today to repair it, and the festival is picking up the bills. But it's the start of the summer holidays, and clearly some parts of Hillsborough Park will be off limits for some time.
We're not against it, are we? We're not anti-festival. But this time it's been hellish, really.
They disrupt us for about a month.
It smells very bad and it's a mess. It's a shame that it's still locked up. This is never what anybody agreed to let Tramlines be here. I understand they've agreed to pay, but it's a lot of destruction.
It is a bit of a mess. It can't be helped, really. I think it was bad timing with school holidays, as everybody's saying.
Sheffield is far from the only city to use parks to generate revenue. This is the advert for Christmas lights at Roundhay Park in Leeds.
Councils are entitled, and indeed it's perhaps necessary, that they do a number of events and fundraising activities. But the primary object of the park is again for people to relax, to have peace, and to recover.
The commercialisation of public parks is going too far. And specifically, I think Hillsborough Park is being used as a venue for generating income that is not necessarily going back into Hillsborough Park.
Sheffield City Council say they've carried out extensive consultation for their plans at Hillsborough Park and add they have overwhelmingly positive support. A final decision on them is expected in September. Until then, the wildlife share the space with the clean-up from the last event. Tom Ingle, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
Well, let's continue on this. I've been speaking to Helen Griffiths. She's from Fields in Trust, which campaigns to protect our parks. She told me councils face a really difficult balancing act.
I think it's a really tricky issue and one that we need to be able to strike the right balance on. At Fields and Trust, we're really aware from talking to local councils on a regular basis that they're definitely feeling the pressure of ever reducing budgets. And so being able to find ways to generate income to support parks is a really important part of what they need to do. But they need to obviously be able to do that in balance with keeping that primary purpose there as much as possible. And it's a tricky balancing act.
It really is a balancing act, isn't it, between being able to actually maintain a park and still have it for locals or not having a park at all?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, a report that came out last year showed that in real terms, local authorities are spending £330 million less on parks maintenance than we were 10 years ago. Now, that's a phenomenal sum. And as a non-statutory duty, it's really difficult to find, against the other budgetary pressures, the money to be able to deliver parks and green spaces to the standards that most local authorities want to be able to deliver for residents at.
If we look at Hillsborough Park, the new facilities will include a tennis court that will have the Lawn Tennis Association. There'll be a paddle club, mini golf. Some might argue that actually this can offer new opportunities for locals to try something different.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think the providers that can come into these spaces and diversify that offer and create new recreational opportunities can be really valuable for local people. And I think since the pandemic, we've certainly seen such an increased recognition of how valuable our parks and green spaces are to our communities. People are using those spaces more and they're looking for those spaces to offer new things for them to do.
Many councils have stopped the free activities. So Roundhay Park, for example, there used to be a free bonfire event for local residents. That's now stopped, and there's a paid entry, £70 per family, to go and see a light display at Christmas. It's gone from one extreme to the other.
It certainly has. I mean, that's an enormous amount of money for a family to find to go and have, a single day's activity. And it's going to be beyond the reach of most people, I would think. And I think that's what we're seeing, that decline in free activities that we've all been very, very accustomed to having in our local parks, whether that's a level of, summer activities, bonfire nights, Christmas events. And I think they need to look at the calendar of provision and make sure that where there is income being generated from events such as the one that you describe, as I said, that is being ring-fenced to make sure they're providing a more democratic offer to families the rest of the time.
Helen, thank you for your time. Next night, flowers are being left in memory of a man who died after a crash involving his scooter and an ambulance near Barnsley. He was riding in the village of Hoyland Swain when he collided with the ambulance, which was responding to a 999 call. Ollie Constable is at the scene for us now. Ollie, this is really tragic. What more do we know?
Well, Amy, at about 10:30 on Friday night, this road was busy with emergency services fighting to save that man's life. The moped rider, who was 31, had been at this junction here outside the Lord Nelson pub. He was in collision with an ambulance, which we now know was responding to a 999 call. This is one of the main roads that connects Barnsley and Manchester. It's a very busy road. It remained closed on Friday night and into much of Saturday while police did their investigation to what happened here. The man was taken to hospital with those serious injuries, but he died a short time later. Police tell us nobody has been arrested in this investigation so far, but the ambulance driver is assisting them with their inquiries.
And we can see lots of flowers have been left there in tribute to him behind you, Ollie.
Yeah, that's right, Amy. We've had lots of flowers, we've had balloons and some motorcycle helmets, as well as some motorcycle parts being left here as well. In fact, while we've been here, one person came to lay flowers and they were clearly very emotional and broke down in tears. Some of those tributes being given to them say, "I love you always, ride high in the clouds, my angel." Now, the BBC isn't naming this person after a request from the family, but police are continuing to ask witnesses who may have seen what happened to come forward.
Ollie, thank you. Let's have a look at some other stories coming into our newsroom now. Police are investigating a suspected pepper spray attack at a nightclub in Doncaster. Emergency services were called to Popworks in the early hours of Sunday after reports of many people feeling unwell. 8 people were taken to hospital but later discharged with no injuries. The club was evacuated and Popworks has issued an apology. Bus fares in South Yorkshire will go up in November. The Combined Authority voted today to scrap cheap fares for 18 to 21-year-olds and increase child fares from 80p to £1. South Yorkshire's Mayor Oliver Coppard has called the government's funding for buses completely unacceptable. The government says it's invested millions of pounds on capping bus fares at £2 until November. You're watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. Still strumming. We meet the musician who can play his guitar once again thanks to treatment for Parkinson's disease. Sure, you don't need me to tell you that July has been a complete washout. This says it all, doesn't it? Paul has been looking at the statistics. Paul, just how soggy has it been?
Well, it's been relentless, hasn't it? I mean, you've just mentioned June, which was in places the hottest on record. As soon as July begun, the heavens opened. We showed some pictures last week of Scarborough. Such was the volume of rainfall.
Wow.
The sewers just couldn't cope. All that washed into the sea. 2 inches at Caton Bay in around about 2 hours. Well, here are the records from Sheffield Weston Park. It's really important. The data goes back to 1882. The average is 65 millimetres. The wettest July on record was back in 1973. Well, look at that for 2023. We're the second wettest July on record. Again, remember, we've come off the back of what was the hottest June on record. It's causing all sorts of problems. The tourist board, as you might imagine, has taken quite a hit. Day trippers are just not turning up, and it's a really big problem for farmers. Here's James, who I spoke to earlier today.
Well, let's compare it to last year. Last year was terrific, you know, in a way for July. Really, we had that wonderful hot spell. We were able to get our combining done. The grain was dry. We could bale our straw afterwards because the straw was dry. This year is the complete opposite. We are struggling to find the days where we can get in that field and combine. Whether we're getting that grain dry is very difficult. So there's going to be drying charges occurred on that grain because we can't store it when it's too wet. But then it's having that day or two afterwards to get the straw baled. So at the minute, you'll see lots of fields around with straw still sat there in lines because it is too wet to bale, which is starting to really occur problems when we're trying to put in crops like oilseed rape that needs to be drilled early.
With James Johnson, they're talking about the challenges for farming, but for parents, it's the school holidays, wet weather. It can be really expensive to try and entertain the kids when it's like this.
Absolute nightmare, isn't it? I mean, what do you do when the rain never stops?
Only so many times you can watch Barbie.
That's right. Once is enough, once is enough. But, you know, looking forward, there's going to be no change to this weather pattern as we head into early August. I think we will see a change. I think the second half of August will be quite a bit better. And September may well turn out to be a decent month, but certainly in the short term, it's more of the same.
Fingers crossed for August. Thanks, Paul. Here's an uplifting story for you. A singer-songwriter says it's magical that he's been able to play the guitar for the first time in years, thanks to treatment he's had for Parkinson's. Phil Webster from Shipley has lived with the condition for 19 years, but after a procedure which saw a device being attached to his brain, some of his symptoms have now actually eased. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson has been to meet him.
Music is a form of language. It helps me to communicate with people. It's something I thought I'd never get back. It's made me want to tell people that there is hope. I have 2 wires behind this ear.
Just over a year ago, Phil Webster underwent surgery called deep brain stimulation to treat his Parkinson's disease. Tiny electrodes were inserted into his brain and connected to a device under the skin that sends electrical impulses to the damaged areas of the brain. Before surgery, the singer-songwriter was unable to play the guitar, suffered frequent falls and struggled to walk. But afterwards, he saw an immediate improvement.
I was walking almost completely normal around the hospital wards. And I just started laughing.
We're looking at your beta waves in your brain
Deep brain stimulation is not new, but the device implanted in Phil at Sheffield Teaching Hospitals contains new technology, able to record and analyse brain activity. It means clinicians can more easily adjust settings and optimise his care.
When the beta waves are high, it means that you've got your Parkinson's symptoms at their worst. And when those beta waves are low, it means that those symptoms are well controlled.
Now we've altered the stimulation. How does that feel regarding your gait and mobility?
I feel a lot safer.
It guides what you need to do and even anticipates the type of therapy that the patient needs. And this is very important because Parkinson's disease is progressive. It will get worse, but this technology can anticipate what's required and therefore help you deliver and ensure the optimal therapy that's needed.
It's been quite magical, really. It's changed my mood, my outlook on life. It means the world to me.
Sounding great, isn't he? Thank you, Phil, for sharing your story with us. Now, we're going to tell you the story of a local dentist who's partnered with a charity for homeless people in Leeds to help the city's rough sleepers. The NHS-funded project has already helped more than 150 people. It's hoped it will ease pressure on A&E services. We've been to see how it works.
Hello, is it Billy? Would you like to come through?
My teeth have got really bad. I've been staying in the woods. The Homeless Street Angels is the only company I've found that offers help with your teeth for a free service for the homeless. Especially with me, I don't really like sleeping in the woods. It's not something I want to do. I'd quite happily have a home. I'm quite a quiet man. I like to read, write. I'm quite creative. Well, I've been alone for a long time. Try to maintain, try to stay strong. You can't let the world grind you down. Yeah, my teeth aren't great. I've got a very bad back one on the right. But with the free service today, hopefully I'll get the right help.
6 missing, 7 okay, 8 missing.
It started in December actually. I had really bad teeth. All my teeth were ruined and I was scared of dentists, really scared of dentists. And I had the help of Becky and her team, and I inboxed her and said, please help me because I'm desperate.
It's a massive thing for them. Their self-esteem, their self-worth, everything. It just completely changes everything about them once they've got their teeth sorted.
Now, some of these patients have not seen a dentist in years and years and have got a lot of neglect, and a lot of the patients have had a lot of pain. We're really lucky and fortunate in Yorkshire that the NHS commissioners were quite forward-thinking and they actually commissioned this as a service. So these are the patients who are turning up at 111 or at A&E. So us being able to treat them here in this clinic gets them stabilised. It means they're not having episodes of pain and discomfort.
There you go. Whoa, that's a corker.
So you go home very humble, to be quite honest. There was one gentleman, for instance, that lacked a lot of confidence and he would hide behind a mask. So we made one little comment to him saying basically the last appointment, we want that mask and we're popping it in our bin and we don't want to see it again. Since then, we still routinely see him, so he does come for checkups ever since then, and he's actually mentioned that since seeing us, he's actually got back in contact with family members and job opportunities. So it's lovely to know that just from what we've done, just that 15-minute appointment has completely changed someone's life.
Now, we are always bright-eyed and bushy-tailed here on Look North, aren't we? Just like these little guys. There they are. Look at these big eyes. They're the newest arrivals at the Yorkshire Arboretum. It's part of a project to boost their dwindling population. Michelle Lyons and our wildlife cameraman for the day, Ian Kershaw, have been to meet them.
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, these cute little kits are only a few months old, and already they're a bit of a handful. The York Arboretum welcomed their new arrivals back in the spring, and the first baby red squirrels were born shortly afterwards.
Well, we opened this project in April, and it's been incredible. The squirrels have really settled in, 2 females and 1 male. They love it. And the result has been, so far, 2 litters, 1 in the first litter and 3 kits in the second, who have just come out about 2 weeks ago and are now really getting to know the place.
The enclosure was specially designed to protect the red squirrels especially from grey squirrels, which can spread disease.
One of the main features of the enclosure itself is the green plastic coated steel that you see all the way around the enclosure. That is made of a material that squirrels just can't climb. So that is on the inside and the outside. Coupled with that, we have a 3 to 5 metre no jump zone either side of the fence.
The squirrels are growing in confidence every day and are quick to take advantage. So this is Eric. He's the father of the 4 kits that have been born here a few months ago. Now he's a very brave red squirrel. And he seems to have his paws in everything.
Well, Eric is an exceptional squirrel. He's the male, Eric the red. He's incredibly bold and tame. As you've seen, he's been raiding the feed container this morning. He's still there now.
And if you turn up at feeding time, they're sure to make an appearance.
And I've been hunting around the country looking for red squirrels for years, and they've always seemed to be disappearing and in the trees and on holiday or something, and there he was, scampering around. It was absolutely amazing.
Having spent hours on the Isle of Wight and on Anglesey looking for red squirrels, 5 miles up the road, and we've got this fabulous breeding programme here.
When the 4 kits are mature enough, they'll be taken away to breed to help boost their population, leaving Eric, Holly and Hazel to enjoy their time together and hopefully produce more kits next spring. Michelle Lyons, BBC Look North, the Yorkshire Arboretum.
They're gorgeous, aren't they? Right on our doorstep as well. Who needs the Isle of Wight, eh? Now, before we head to the weather, schools may have broken up for the summer, but look what arrived for us this week. A lovely card from pupils at a York primary school. Now, Paul and I did a class about the weather, and it seems he's inspired a few meteorologists of the future. There's some really gorgeous pictures and messages here. I'm going to read a couple out for you, because I think they've already sussed out that Paul's job's quite easy. Here, Paul and Amy, thank you so much for talking to us about the weather. I learnt that red means hot and green means cold, and when the clouds get big, they can't hold the rain. And another one says, thank you for showing me that the satellites do the reports for the weather for you.
Oh, that's nice.
They've realised, though, haven't they, that actually it's all computers that do his job.
Yeah, I think that they were quite intrigued to see your auto cue and, you know, how good you were at pressing that pedal down there. It's quite an art, actually. I don't think the viewers realise there's a lot goes into that.
There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, yeah. Our little viewers were impressed, weren't they? And hopefully we've got a few more viewers off the back of it now. The younger generation.
Indeed, although they were a bit fed up with the weather, weren't they, when they came in last
Well, they were asking why it was raining so much, so, you know, they got that right.
Well, they've got that explaining, what, 170-odd millimetres? My weather station in Leeds has 170 as well, so it's been incredible. But one thing that's done really well this month have been the wind farms. It's been a very windy month. We've had maximum wind power during this very, very unsettled month, courtesy, of course, of the jet stream. And this picture, the next one, was a very gloomy one. There was some brightness along the coast, but that's, you can see that shower out just off Flamborough Head there. Fantastic part of the world, even if the weather has been a little bit poor. Keep the pictures coming in. Addresses are on your screen right now. That's not quite the address. That's the address. Twitter, Instagram and the Weather Watcher website, and I'll be putting more details about just why it's been so wet in July and just what the chances are of an improvement through August. That will be on Twitter in the next few minutes. Right, let's have a look at the headline then for the first day of August. Of course, it's Yorkshire Day. It looks fairly nondescript. There'll be some patchy rain around at first, rather cloudy with a scattering of showers. A bit of brightness, some sun intervals at times. And then the next low, look at that thing coming in from the southwest. Wet Tuesday night, Wednesday morning's very wet. And then we've got a northerly, which normally we see during autumn. That means temperatures will be poor. We expect 21 early August. We're going to be near a 16 on Thursday afternoon. Now there's a radar picture. We've just got rid of one area of rain. We've got another one coming into the Pennines now. So we'll see that rain migrating eastwards during the course of this evening and overnight. And then most places should become dry away from the west. I think we'll still have a lot of cloud in the west with some patchy rain and drizzle. And we'll see temperatures coming in at 12 or 13 degrees. So tomorrow's high watch time is Filey 4:26, Bridlington at 4:39. So a cloudy, damp start, some patchy rain across the Pennines, mostly dry further east. That patchy rain clears out of the way. And then with a bit of brightness, you can see we could see a few lines of sharp showers breaking out. But there will be some drier and at times brighter spells. Temperatures around 19 degrees. Wednesday then a very wet start, that rain clearing to showers or local thunderstorms, and then it stays unsettled. And, you know, look at these temperatures, 16 or 17 degrees is poor for early August. That's the forecast, Amy.
Love this one. Thank you, Paul and Amy. You showed us a lot.
Oh, that's not well, I'm glad to hear it.
Well, that's it from us. Phil's here with your late news at 10:30. Hope you can join him then. That's it for us. Bye-bye.